Howdy folks, Fuerev here, and I'm very honored to be recording this video tonight. A friend of mine on Facebook asked me a question about an article that was published recently by a fella by the name of Anthony DeStefano. This was published as an opinion piece in USA Today online on April the 21st, so just a couple of days ago. The link will be in the below bar, and the article itself is called How Easter and Christianity Undermine Atheism. The link title itself, if you take a look, actually includes Easter Lesson for Atheists in the URL, so it's right there in the URL, Easter Lesson for Atheists. My friend asked me my opinion about this piece, and already it's not making a very good first impression. At first blush, what I see is, even in the URL, a little bit of condescension there. So DeStefano makes 11 points in the article that I would like to address. Now I know 11 points, this is going to probably make for a long video. I apologize in advance. I don't typically do very long videos, but I really think that this deserves some attention. The article itself, I guess my broad opinion about it is that it is as condescending as the URL implies and the title itself implies. The attitude of the author seems to be that atheists are picking on the Christians, and it's a very, very hostile. It's not openly, nakedly, violently hostile, certainly, but there is that standoffishness to it. And I'd like to address one by one the points that were made by the author. Most of this is not going to be a surprise to any of you who've read the article or who are familiar with the typical Christian talking points. So first of all, I invite you all to go and read the article before watching this video. So I would say go ahead and pause this video right now if you have not read the article. Go read it. It's a short article. It's just a few pages long if you print it out, and it's a pretty easy read. Go ahead and read it and then come back. Okay. First point, he says, and I'm paraphrasing a lot here, he says, atheists have a lot to rejoice about. And he goes on to talk about the rise in the number of people who declare themselves as having no religion here in the United States. So this is the first of many straw man arguments that DeStefano points out. He seems to have this very common, very typical sort of feeling that atheists subscribe to a very specific set of beliefs and that they are directly contrary to his set of beliefs. It really is kind of one big straw man, so already we're on kind of shaky ground here. But he says that atheists have a lot to rejoice about because our numbers are growing. Well, woohoo. This assumes that atheism is a proselytizing institution, which it's certainly not an institution. Some atheists tend to proselytize. Some of anybody tends to proselytize. You know, I think that every high school probably had a math club that put up posters encouraging you to join. I mean, to what extent do you call that proselytizing? And to what extent do you really rejoice that your numbers are growing? I guess I don't know. It's a matter to be decided by each individual. I'm certainly not rejoicing in the fact. I guess it doesn't really affect me one way or the other. He's talking about, I think it was something like 1.6 million people in the United States declared themselves as having no religion. Well, 1.6 million people versus the 600,000 that had declared themselves such prior in a nation of, what, 400 million people? Yeah, whatever. So, alright, so that's the first point. The second point is that we are living in a nation that once prided itself on its Judeo-Christian heritage. Now, this is a classic talking point for a segment of the Christian population that likes to grind its axe on this particular stone. This is just bad history. Do I really need to talk at length about this? Probably not. There are plenty of good resources that will tell you a lot about the history of religion in the United States. I don't know that this nation ever prided itself on its Judeo-Christian heritage, but the fact that this nation doesn't have an exclusively Judeo-Christian heritage, that even if such a pride did exist, it would be on the whole truth, so it's kind of an irrelevant point. This sentence he's just sort of whining about being picked on, I guess. Well, good heavens. So the third point, and this is really where he gets into the thrust of his article, says that atheists believe in materialism. Now, this is a paraphrase. He goes on at some length about this. He says that atheists, seems that he's pointing out that atheists by definition, which of course is incorrect, but that atheists believe in materialism, and then he goes on to paint materialism as a superstition. And ironic, and maybe that was his point, maybe that was the idea, that those who he was confronting in this article would find that ironic. But I mean, first of all, it's obviously a straw man. It's just semantically incorrect. Atheism has nothing necessarily to do with materialism, although many atheists might be materialists. And it misses the point of materialism. Go and read the Wikipedia article on materialism, which I encourage you all to do right now, and I remember to leave a link down below. At the article on materialism. Materialism is kind of a broad, varied, and diverse topic. To pin it down to reductionist materialism, it's kind of disingenuous, and so he's on even shakier ground at this point. So missing the point of materialism is kind of where he begins, and it's unfortunate because even if you do happen to believe in, I guess, the philosophy of materialism, all that really means is that these notions of honor, love, ideas, the conceptual things that he's talking about that he believes exist in a reality separate from the physical reality, a materialist would say those things still exist. They simply exist as a very complex, sophisticated byproduct of matter interacting with itself, and that does not necessarily trivialize those things. And this is the point, that even if those things are simply a physical reality, that doesn't trivialize them. Love is not a trivial thing, even if all it is matter clashing against matter. So that's just silly. The fourth point, we can't reduce the whole of reality to what our senses tell us because our senses lie to us. This, once again, shows an incredibly juvenile understanding of materialism, but also this point that our senses lie to us and therefore we can't trust our senses is why we have the scientific method. It's why when I say I cannot trust my senses all of the time and you cannot trust your senses all of the time, but if the two of us examine the same thing multiple times, we have better odds of being correct. And the more people examine something with their own senses and come to the same conclusion, the more likely that that conclusion is correct, even to the point of being predictive in some cases, and certainly to the point of being more accurately descriptive. So I don't get it. I guess I don't understand what he thinks he's going to accomplish if his audience were in fact people like me, but I think that we all know that his audience is not people like me. His audience is like-minded people who are ignorant about philosophy, first of all, atheism second. Next point, point number 5. Ideas can't be seen, love can't be seen, honor can't be seen. These realities will never be reducible to scientific formulae because they will never be fully comprehensible to the human mind. And in italics he writes, God didn't mean them to be. So this is a continuation of what he was saying previously, and it incorporates the same bad argumentation. You know, concepts, like many elusive things, are detectable by inference and effect, right? So the concept of love or the concept of honor, insofar as it is detectable through the ways that we communicate, and then ultimately down to our behaviors, our actions, the ways in which we interact with each other and with the world. That's the only way that you can really perceive something like honor or love or something like that. To say that it has some sort of idealistic existence, well, that's a philosophical argument, and we can have that philosophical argument. And I'm not going to make that philosophical argument, the idealism versus materialism, in this video. But I will say that this God didn't mean them to be, the God done it argument, has always been and will always be a philosophical cop-out. So argue idealism versus materialism all you want, but in the end, if your argument is honor, love, God done it, your argument is crap. So point number 6. He goes on to say that atheists are so steeped in the superstition of materialism that they are blind to the existence of a world of miracles, a world of grace, a world of diabolical warfare, a world of angels. So his argument here is that there are two worlds. So this is, again, we're getting beyond the materialism thing, and I think we know which side of that debate he's coming down upon. Materialism is bad, therefore angels, is basically the argument that he's making in this sentence, and that is absurd. And then he comes around and he says, a world where the highest values are completely opposite from those of our secular society. Weakness equals strength, sacrifice equals salvation, suffering equals unlimited power. I thought this was very interesting. So first of all, since when are meekness and sacrifice any less valuable in a secular society than they are in a religious or theocratic society? So What I mean by that is meekness, sacrifice. Some people find them valuable, some people don't. I don't necessarily think that that changes. I mean, it would have to be proven to me that there is some innate difference in how the perception of those qualities exists in theocratic societies versus secular societies. I'm just not buying this argument. He's making an assertion here, and I'm going to need some proof. Aside from that, this notion that suffering equals unlimited power, what the fuck is unlimited power? And how did suffering get you there? And how is this valuable? Man, you're going way out there, buddy. If this is the kind of argument that you're trying to make, particularly on the subject of suffering equals unlimited power, I would seriously question your values, as I guess you would seriously question mine, and we would find ourselves at a very serious impasse. Point number 8. Atheists claim that this is absurd. By this, he's referring to this world of angels and also this world of suffering equals unlimited power. Atheists claim that this is absurd. We do? Okay, I mean, some do, certainly. But I would say that atheism, by definition, does not necessarily claim that this is absurd. Certainly a lot of atheists do claim that this sort of thing is absurd. I claim that, to an extent, some of what he's saying is absurd. And I need some proof of what he's saying in order to go over to his side. I'm not buying what he's selling here. So, point number 9, if you have not yet, please go read the article because I'm paraphrasing heavily here. Atheists claim that Christianity is wishful thinking because people need some kind of remediation for their fear of death. However, why then would these beliefs that are remediation for their fear of death also include things like hell, judgment, sacrifice, discipline over the urges of the body? So, first of all, this indicates a very naive understanding of psychology. The way he's setting up this argument is that he's saying that atheists believe that Christianity and other religions exist because people are afraid of death. Why then would they go and incorporate bad stuff in it as well? That's just very naive. You know, the quote-unquote bad stuff, the judgment, the discipline, all of that sort of stuff, the hell, all of that is very effective in controlling people. If you want to set up a circumstance where you have a population of people who you need to control, you need to control them up here, and an effective way of doing that is to present them with this worldview that incorporates this eternal judgment and hell and all of these things. I don't really need to go too far down this road because this argument has been well made by others, and again it proves that he's not really writing to an audience that includes guys like me. But I will give you an example of this principle in action. If you've ever heard of stage hypnotists or stage hypnotism, this is where, you know, somebody is a stage hypnotist and they get up on stage, they have this act, and they get a member of the audience to come up, and then they go about the process of making this member of the audience cluck like a chicken, for instance. And the way that they do this, they say that they're hypnotizing, they're using their mystical powers to hypnotize this person. What they actually do, if you see them in action, is they get in this person's face, and they get right up in their face, and they kind of bark at them, they yell at them, they limit this person's ability to determine the flow of the dialogue, the context, the situation. They put this person into a little psychological hole from which there is no escape, basically by verbally abusing them, right? And then they tell them that there's a way out. All you have to do in order to get out of this situation where someone is confronting you, someone is right in your face, and they have this authority and this power over you, all you have to do to get out of this situation is cluck like a chicken, right? Or, you know, believe that Jesus Christ died and was risen, or whatever, right? It's the same principle in action. So the fact that he doesn't seem to see that is not a surprise to me, I suppose, but is also evidence of his lack of understanding of the human mind, even in the face of historical evidence. Point number 10. He says that atheists persist in this ridiculous notion that human beings invented God merely because we're afraid of death and want to see our dead relatives again. Oh man, this is a man made of straw. Well, okay. So put yourself in the shoes of a Christian, and now imagine that someone who is Jewish said to you that Christians persist in their belief that the Messiah has come merely because they're uncomfortable with the strict rules laid out in the Torah. Is this an oversimplification? Perhaps. Is it a straw man? Definitely. So point number 11, Atheists can scoff all they want. They will never succeed in snuffing out that faith in God that all human beings naturally possess, because on that first Easter, Christ did rise. Again, I'm paraphrasing a little bit here. Basically, he is engaging in special pleading here. He's saying that atheists will never destroy Christianity, because certainly that's our mission, and it's our goal to wipe out all traces of Christianity from this planet, because Christians are so persecuted, they're so picked on. Atheists are feeding them to lions left and right. But they'll never succeed. Atheists will never succeed in their pogrom, because of his positive assertion that on that first Easter, notwithstanding the history of even the term Easter and its pagan roots, on that first Easter, Jesus Christ, after having been crucified and stuck in a tomb for a few days, did indeed rise, is what he's saying. This is special pleading. It's not really an argument. Atheists are not actually persecuting Christianity, and it's crappy, condescending arguments like this fellow is making that are the reason why you're seeing more and more atheists. So, Mr. DeStefano, if you want to ensure that there are a growing number of atheists, and that there continue to be a growing number of atheists in your community, please, by all means, continue writing disingenuous, intellectually lazy, condescending articles such as these. That's all I have to say about this. I thank my friend for asking me what my opinion is of this article. I live in a very cosmopolitan part of the United States, and so not a lot of folks that I know personally are very curious about my beliefs, so I appreciate having been asked about my opinion about this article and been given this opportunity to express myself. I hope everybody's doing okay out there for this Easter, and I hope you've learned your lesson, you atheists out there. Alright everybody, that's all from me for tonight. Take care out there. Good luck.